This video is brought to you by Raycon. You know, when you watch the Super Bowl or the Winter Olympics, it's easy to say to yourself, damn, I need to get back into shape. And whatever goals you set for yourself, I hope like hell you make them. But what I also think will help is making sure you got the right pair of earbuds for the journey ahead, such as Raycon's Essential Open Earbuds. It's always good to be wary of your surroundings in the gym or outside, and with the Essential Open Earbuds sitting just outside your ear canal, while also ensuring they don't fall off your ears with their hook design, you can rock out to your favorite songs or podcasts with that premium quality sound and still be aware of what's happening around you. They weigh next to nothing and last 8 hours of playtime with a rechargeable carrying case giving you 36 hours of total battery life on a single charge. Folks that have been following my channel know that I've been talking about Raycons for years because I genuinely believe they're a great product that have gotten me through countless yoga sessions and arduous house cleaning. Over 3 million customers don't lie. Raycon's got your back because of sound quality that's just as good as the supremely more expensive brands, and they're half the price to boot because they don't got to worry about paying for the hot tub of a celebrity you never heard about and don't care to. The Essential Open Earbuds are here to help you go for the gold. Go to buyraycon.com/somecallmejohnny to get 15% off your order. You can also scan the QR code on the screen so that you can start saving money from your very phone. Much love to Raycon for sponsoring as always, and thank you, most importantly, for supporting this channel. Let's get on with the show. Well then, I think now's a good time to start working on that Order of Ecclesia video, huh? Before then though, I wanted to shift my attention back to Sonic for today's video. It is his 35th anniversary this year, so I'm expecting to go back to the Blue Blur a couple of times throughout 2026. So originally I was going to make a video on Sonic Mega Mix Mania. That's a mod a long time in the making that I wanted to give its proper dues since the project managed to achieve its base 1.0 release. And you know, my congratulations to the team, it's cool to see something come to fruition, that's been a long time coming. But as soon as I started recording, which first off, I assume the team has a hard-on for Markiplier. I mean, I like Markiplier too, but goddamn, that video that plays after the title screen is loud and nonsensical. But I noticed on the Sonic Mega Mix Mania's official Blue Sky account that version 1.1 was already in the works and it was going to address player feedback, and right then I was like, son of a bitch, well, I can't do this now. My video's going to get immediately dated. I don't want to risk bitching about something that is going to get fixed in the middle of me making the video. And trust me, I was looking at my notes, I had plenty of things to bitch about, but okay, it's getting patched. We're going to put a pin on that and come back to it later. And that's when I remembered, well wait, I never talked about that 16-bit overhaul of Sonic Triple Trouble, did I? Yeah, I recorded my first playthrough of that game, let's see, November of 2023. So right around the time I had the existential crisis and nervous breakdown. Doing YouTube for a living can be very stressful. But you know what? I think it's been long enough, so I should pick up where I left off. Mods and fan games could breathe new life into a franchise, and if there's one I think that could be an interesting time for others, assuming it actually gets a full release at some point, I want to highlight that with a proper Versus video. And today's subject is something I have some familiarity with. I have played and reviewed the original Sonic Triple Trouble some odd years back. Problems with level design aside, I mean the game loved the fucking shit out of Springs, Jesus. I still considered it the best of Sonic's 2D outings for Sega's unapologetic battery goblin, the Sega Game Gear. Looked good, wasn't too ball busting, a fine addition to Sonic's 8-bit adventures, would recommend, as long as you're willing to adapt to what might be considered antiquated design. But maybe director and designer Noah Copeland figured, you know what, maybe Sonic Triple Trouble shouldn't be trapped in the limitations of the Game Gear. Maybe it should be a console game. So for several years, efforts were made to give Sonic Triple Trouble the 16-bit treatment, making it closer to the sequel of Sonic 3 that it always was. In fact, if not for the obviously higher resolution and more elaborate aesthetic, you wouldn't be remiss for thinking this was just a Sonic 3 hack. Sonic's rocking the same design, there's elemental shields with all the returning perks, special stages are entered through giant rings plastered all over the levels. But I knew from minute one this wasn't just a Sonic 3 mod, because this game commits the cardinal sin of removing the insta-shield. And that's just, you know what I say to that? Bam! I don't care what the rest of the game entails. But no, it doesn't take long to see the sheer effort made in making this 16-bit iteration not just a faithful adaptation of the Game Gear original, but its own beast entirely. Like, besides bringing back Triple Trouble's dedicated zones, this might as well be a brand new game. Levels are way more intricate, sound design is crisp and accurate to the Sega Genesis, including great remixes of themes I couldn't fully appreciate on the Game Gear, but more than welcomed here. This remake's got some great beats. Atomic Destroyer getting some of the best stuff, I think. There's additional boss encounters. There's story sequences that help bridge zones together. Shit, even in the middle of gameplay, the game's telling the story through fun and whimsical background events. The story isn't really much different than the original game. It's still Eggman, Knuckles, and Fang the whatever, giving Sonic and Tails a hard time throughout the game, but now there's a bunch of little things that make the adventure more engaging, more thrilling. I like the emphasis on physical comedy, like the signpost bit at the end of Sunset Park. That never fails to make me smile. And there's like so many times where other characters are just like, fuck yo couch. Eggman dunking Sonic for the emeralds, everyone slamming Fang until he's 6 feet under. Metal Sonic, good lord, this man just doesn't give a fuck. Look at him, repeatedly slamming Sonic like he owes him child support. I think that's probably the remake's biggest change to the original, is incorporating Metal Sonic into the story, since it's revealed that he's been secretly masquerading as Knuckles in order to help Eggman's plans, but later gets a little out of hand by making negative copies of the emeralds to power up into a form that I know is supposed to be a reference to his incarnation from Sonic the Fighters, but all I see is Dark Helmet from Spaceballs.
I knew it, I'm surrounded by assholes!
Let's get into the game properly before that though. The 16-bit rendition of Sonic Triple Trouble puts you in control of both Sonic and Tails simultaneously, so always, with the simple push of a button, you have access to Sonic's high speed and use of elemental shields, and Tails' flight and swimming abilities. It's the best of both worlds, no Chaotix rubber band in sight. You can blast through levels with reckless abandon as the blue blur, but if you're feeling a little more explorative, maybe get to an area you're not quite confident enough to reach with Sonic alone, you can just switch to Tails and reach higher ground with little effort. It's slower, yeah, maybe a little disruptive, but the option is there, it's appreciated, and I had fun using both characters when I saw fit. It's like Donkey Kong Country, but, you know, on crack. And the game offers plenty of incentives for combing every nook and cranny, including rings, power-ups, bonus levels through checkpoints, and giant rings containing special stages. Here, special stages are a race against Fang as you not only try to nab the emerald before he does, but you're also trying not to fall off the stage and making sure your timer doesn't run out by avoiding obstacles and collecting rings to give you more time. Now that's easier said than done at times, like whenever you're settling on the tornado. I'm happy you can actually collect things now with your entire plane instead of just your head, but that also means my hitbox is now wider than my ass. Fuck! Some stages require a careful balance of knowing when to prioritize extending the timer and sabotaging Fang with lightning attacks to keep him at bay. But for the most part, these special stages are relatively cozy. I only had to retry, I think, the 4th and 5th stages more than once. The rest I comfortably managed on my first try. But this game also gives you the Sonic Origins option, where you can use these special coins you find in zones as currency to redo a special stage you just fucked up. Because of the game's story, there's also only 6 emeralds to collect, because Eggman already has the 7th in his possession. And while that means, yeah, no Super Sonic as a reward, at least not until post-game, collecting the emeralds here isn't asking for too much. And fuck, if you got a real knack or fang for exploring, you can find so many special rings in Meta-Junglyra alone. Every zone from the original has been brought to the big screen and given some much needed adjustments, and by that I mean they toned down the springs, thank fuck. But every zone's dedicated set piece has been kept intact or expanded upon for the sake of maintaining that unique sense of identity that set Triple Trouble apart from the other 8-bit games. Sunset Park has the train sequence where you'll probably waste time checking in between every goddamn train car for a special ring because you're hopeless and naive, and the abundance of minecarts also return to cause some mayhem and destruction. Robotnik Winter brings back the snowboarding, both in dedicated 2D sections and this new pseudo 3D bit that's a little weird with the depth perception, but ultimately harmless. I tell you though, I played as Tails for most of this zone, and Sonic, man, I think he really didn't want to let go of that fucking snowboard. My dude was trying to hold on to that thing like it was a tragic keepsake, but you gotta let it go, Sonic. The accident wasn't your fault. Meta-Junglyra, actually, wait a minute, what the fuck is a Junglyra? I've never heard of that word. Am I even saying it right? Junglyra is a portmanteau of jungle and Shangri-La. Oh. Anyway, Meta-Junglyra has Donkey Kong barrels, and one of my favorite badniks in the game, that dopey-ass looking snake. Look at him, not a single thought in that fucking head. There's a couple of badniks that I just vibe with visually. Shit, Title Plane has 2 of them. The urchins are dangerous to touch and shouldn't be fucked with, but when they're not activated, tell me that default face just doesn't scream, fuck, I should have called out today. And the Piranha guys I just like because that face is perfect for realizing that Tails brought back the Sea Fox from Tails' Adventure. And now Tails gets to show Sonic all the carnage he missed last time. What a joyous day this is. Egg Zeppelin is one of the only new zones added to the remake, and it's essentially the game's flying battery, or Wing Fortress zones if there's only one act. It's also one of the only times the game brings back the rocket shoes. Yeah, it's more of a story sequence than an optional power-up here, which you can argue diminishes an aspect of Triple Trouble that made it stand out originally. But I'm not really bothered by how de-emphasized it is now, because I feel having Tails by your side at all times would just make the shoes feel redundant and clumsy by comparison. I don't miss the rocket shoes, or the spring shoes for that matter. I always thought those were clunky. All the major bosses from the original were brought back and given proper makeovers, but the remake also incorporates mini bosses like in Sonic 3, most of them being one-on-one bouts with Knuckles, Metal Sonic, and Fang, who you don't just fight in special stages anymore. No, now he can get his ass kicked in regular stages like everyone else. When you have all the emeralds, you also get access to the Super Sonic encounter, which to mention again is a fight against Dark Metal Sonic, I think that was the name. And this fight is great. It's plenty climactic but nothing ball busting, has multiple phases but doesn't starve you for rings. It's just a fun final boss encounter altogether. I got no real complaints here. And honestly, that's pretty much my entire opinion on Sonic Triple Trouble 16-bit. This game is just a comfortable fucking joyride from beginning to end. You know, I feel whenever I'm playing a fan game, with Sonic especially, there's a part of me that fears that, unless it's the entire point of the game, the creators will put too much emphasis on making the game what they consider difficult, because I think the mindset going in is, well, only Sonic fans are going to play this, and Sonic fans should know how to play a Sonic game. And while I don't necessarily disagree, I'd like to recommend this game to more than just Sonic fans. I feel it's important for a game to be accessible more than anything, and Sonic Triple Trouble 16-bit is the definition of accessible. Multiple save files for multiple playthroughs with auto-saving. You can choose to disable lives from the options menu if you think the concept of extra lives is antiquated. Level design is bright, colorful, speedy, and rewarding, and doesn't bombard you with dickheaded enemy placement or go overboard with gimmicks like spikes, springs, or bottomless pits. Grabbing all the Chaos Emeralds is more than feasible. You can play with super forms in post-game. You can play as other characters in post-game, giving you more bang for your buck on a game that was already free to start. Play as Knuckles and see things from his perspective, utilizing his ability to climb walls and glide through the air, and through sheer accident, completely skip a zone because you flew past the level trigger and landed in the next area. I'm sorry, I didn't know that would happen. Grabbing all the emeralds also lets you play as Fang. He can't roll into a ball, but what does that matter when he has multiple jumps and packs a fucking piece? Bosses don't stand a chance. I didn't know robots had severe allergies to cork. Amy Rose is also here in 3 different incarnations, goddamn. You can switch between her Sonic 3 Air, Origins, and Superstars moveset, all depending on what you want to use her hammer for. I personally like the Superstars moveset because, well, I just can't get enough of a double jump in a platformer. I feel that's a no-brainer. Finally completing the game as Knuckles unlocks Metal Sonic, who basically handles like Sonic, but with a hovering force field that damages enemies on contact and lets them jump incredibly long distances. It reminds me of Blaze's hover from Sonic Rush. God, I miss Blaze. There's also a competition mode for some extra flavor, nothing too remarkable. You can challenge your opponent in one of 3 mini-games. You can try and pop more balloons than your rival in the allotted time where you pray the balloon just doesn't spawn directly on top of your opponent. It's like, that's not fucking fair, damn it. You can race to the finish and try to make out shit with that squished ass aspect ratio, just like mama used to make at home. Or you can just drop all the pretense and fight to the death. If you want to play all 3, there's a dedicated campaign mode that adds a small story to the mix, though it's nothing more than Eggman being a shithead again. Still, I appreciate it for the cool character portraits and witty dialogue. No money, no mercy. What a wonderful time this was. Seriously, my hat's off to Noah Copeland and the rest of the team for going above and beyond and giving the community not just a fantastic recreation of one of Sonic's best handheld outings on the Game Gear, but for making a great Sonic game, period. The quality of this remake cannot be understated. A lot of love and attention to detail went into this that I'm sure Sonic fans will appreciate for sure. But I think newbies getting into the franchise will also relish in all that shit with multiple playthroughs. And it's free. You don't gotta pay shit to enjoy this. You can find it with a quick Google search. It's actually insane the effort people will put out just to make something cool for the fuck of it. It's a level of dedication and commitment to the craft that I hope would be inspiring to creators, independent or otherwise. If this were official, I'd happily pay for this multiple times. Play Sonic Triple Trouble 16-bit, you got nothing to lose except the time you put in. And be sure to support Noah Copeland and whatever future endeavors they may have. All right, I think that's what we're going to call it for today's video. At some point later this year, I will go back to Sonic Mega Mix Mania and give that some proper love and attention. But for right now, I want to shift priorities back to Castlevania Order of Ecclesia because it's about time I get to actually wrapping up the DS lineup of Castlevania games. Because, I still can't believe that they actually announced a new Castlevania game, like a new 2D Castlevania game. I'm going to get into it in the Order of Ecclesia video, but it cannot be overstated how real excited I am that I am alive to see Castlevania continued in some form or fashion that isn't, the Lords of Shadow game. Not to say that Lords of Shadow doesn't count, but it's not personally my cup of tea with Castlevania games. So it's just good to be back, I guess, as a way of speaking. So after Order of Ecclesia, then I'm going to work on the Spyro Enter the Dragonfly. I think that's the subtitle of the PS2 game. Then afterwards, I'm going to shift priorities to the Versus 15th anniversary celebration. The Versus series, my bread and butter of the channel, is turning 15, and I want to start celebrating that with a bunch of videos that I personally would like to make, and a lot of long-time requests as well. So here's to 15 more years, kind of a premature celebration. I'll be sure to bleed my heart out when we get to the 15th anniversary proper. But here's to you, and here's to this channel, and here's to a healthy continuation of YouTube videos. Yeah, I'm not fucking... I never script this shit if it isn't obvious. I'll catch you guys next time. Thank you all for watching. Stay safe out there. Have yourselves a fantastic night, and take care. At this time, I am more than happy to give some more shoutouts to some $10 patrons. So continuing down the list, we have shoutouts to Commissar Luigi, Conifer SSR, Konar Shea, Krabby Charbo, Craig 13, Wyman 343, Crash Out Life, Crazy Armor, Crimson Eye 64, Crimson DX, Critical Link, Cure Crystal, Curved Swords 21, Cyclone Silver, Cyrus D. Vania, Dabone Father of Law, Daisy Foxtrot, Dakota Lewis, Dakota Smith, Daku Zamurai, Damax Cornland, Damon Montoya, Dan Morn, Steinbeck, Danny Bound, Daniel Conlon, Daniel Handcuff, Daniel Home, a lot of Daniels here, Daniel Joseph Davis, Darren Young, and finally for today, Darius Sterling. More Patreon shoutouts to follow in the upcoming Castlevania Order of Ecclesia video. You can catch more videos here on the end card, though I guess in the Patreon version this won't make much sense being here. The videos are primarily meant for YouTube. Either way, I appreciate all your love support, everybody. Have a good night.